Hey guys, this is Jochen, welcome to my channel. I talked a lot about the X100V here in the past 5 months. Today it's time to come to a conclusion, so here is my honest full review of this beautiful camera. Let's go! First, as usual, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down there. This would really help me a lot. And if you really like my content, consider buying me a coffee via buymeacoffee.com. Well, today, as you can see, I'm not at home in Düsseldorf. At the moment, I enjoy my vacation at the Dutch coast with my wife and kids. And by the way, it's the first time I can take the X100V with me for traveling. So I thought it would be nice to share this beautiful sunrise with you at the beach. I hope you like it as much as I do. Well, here it is, my X100V. I have had the camera since the black version appeared in mid-March. Since then I have been using it literally every day. So after these 5 months I feel able to share my honest opinion about this camera with you. The easy way is usually the best, so I do it based on my personal pros and cons. Keep in mind, this is my review. I'm telling you my personal opinion. I make no claim to omniscience. And please don't get mad at me if I do not light up every little aspect of the camera, as I have already made some shorter videos about its features, such as the AF range limiter, the clarity settings, accessories, function buttons and so on. And there will be certainly more after this review. The X100V came out in February-March 2020. It is the 5th iteration of the very successful X100 series of premium compact cameras from Fujifilm. The X100, S, T and the famous F. The most important changes to its predecessors: it has the last X-Trans sensor and processor built in, namely the same X-Trans 4 variant, which can also be found inside of the current Fuji flagships X-T3 and X-T4 or in the X Pro 3. For the first time the X100 got a completely revised version of the fixed 23mm lens with a maximum aperture of f2. The V version now has a tilting screen, and not, as some feared, the one of the X Pro 3 that I really like, by the way, but the same principle as the X-T3 or X-T30 has built in. Maybe even a little nicer, because the screen is now absolutely flush with the body of the camera if unfolded. So purists have no reason to complain that it makes the body bigger. Speaking of the body, the design has been made over. The plate material is aluminum now and it feels more valuable than before. Also, the corners have been rounded a little here and there. The camera is available in a silver version, which is really beautiful but felt too striking for me and my street photography. Therefore, my X100V is black and is still a very beautiful camera. The body now is basically weather sealed. The ISO dial has also been revised and has not to be held up anymore while changing the values. Everything else, the whole look and feel, has remained true to the series. On the software side, the new processor gives you more power, of course, so a lot more features came into the X100V. The classic neck film simulation is now supplied with it, just like settings for clarity and tone curve introduced with the X Pro 3. My personal reasons to buy this camera: street photography grabbed me about a year and a half ago. Since then I have always been looking for the perfect package for me and my way of taking these kinds of photos. Up to the version V, the X100 series was unfortunately out of question for me, since I was already not satisfied with the XE3 because of its missing tilt screen. When that changed, I was immediately hooked. So street photography was my main reason for the purchase. But there was also the wish to have a smaller package for my daily snapshots of my children out on short trips or on vacation like we are at the moment. And I can tell you it's great, nothing more is needed. I did not miss a bigger setup yet. In addition, I have already tried it out with portraits together with the TCL X100 Mark II, and I made a video about it. Check it out. Maybe I will try to combine my two photographic passions and start doing some candid or spontaneous street portraits, for which the camera will also be absolutely great. And after testing the X100V on some shootings, I know if I ever need to do portraits with as little equipment as possible, I wouldn't have to worry about doing it with this great little camera. Finally, I will start with my personal pros and cons list about the Fujifilm X100V. Let's start with the cons first to get rid of the negative feelings here. Many fans of the X100 series have long wanted an aperture stop more because the f2 lens was the standard in all predecessors. I also agree that it would be great to have a faster lens even if it were only an 1.8 or 1.7. Aperture 2 sometimes is a bit too small in some lighting situations. Of course, I do not expect the same performance as from my beautiful 56 1.2, but sometimes I would like to separate more from the background when doing portraits with the X100V together with the TCL. And there are other manufacturers who install faster lenses in their very compact cameras. For example, Sony in the new ZV-1 with an aperture of 1.8, Canon with its PowerShot G7X Mark III, also 1.8, Panasonic in the Lumix LX100II 1.7, and of course the Leica Q2 with 1.7. Yes, I know that the comparison is not always fair and there are reasons for that. Sensor sizes, bigger lenses, etc. And also in the case of the X100V it would probably increase the camera size fundamentally. But is it still justified to mention the maximum aperture as a negative point? Of course. I would prefer a faster lens. So maybe with the next revision of the lens we will see some magic done, a faster lens of the same size. But for now we will have to live with it. And I would like to emphasize that we are doing quite well. The lens is really great. The next thing that annoys me about the X100V is the lack of weather sealing on the lens. Yes, I understand why Fujifilm did it the way that they did. I understand that due to the construction of the lens with its moving parts, protection cannot be built into the lens. So it has been decided that the adapterring and UV filter can be used to protect the entire camera from splash water, only if necessary. Fine. But I don't understand why they didn't just add the adapter ring and the filter as solution for a complete WR into the package of the X100V. They decided to let us pay extra for it. Keep in mind that the body of the camera is already weather sealed and those customers who may not want or need this protection also already paid for it. And those who really need it now have to pay extra. Apart from that, I'm still waiting for my WR kit in black from Fujifilm, and it's over 5 months now with no information that it will ever come. And I did not buy it online. I ordered it in a local camera store who are in direct communication with Fujifilm. Until it arrives, I have to help myself with the accessories from the good old Chinese third-party manufacturers. I would like to see a little bit more from Fujifilm next time, because I know they can do better. The battery chamber and the slot for the SD card are difficult to access. That's nothing new with the small bodies and may not be that bad because of the possibility to charge the camera and also transfer pictures to the computer via USB-C. But if you are outside shooting and work with a tripod, it can be annoying because without an additional grip attached you have no chance of reaching the battery chamber and the card slot if you only have to change one of the two. Unfortunately, I had this problem many times, also with the X-T30 by the way. I'm sure that there are better solutions for this. And in addition, the lid of the battery chamber is just stupid. I don't understand why you can't build a lid on a camera of 1500 euros that closes when pushed. On the X-T3 it works too. I simply do not understand. Did I miss something? Please Fujifilm, only build self-closing battery chamber lids on all camera models. I really would appreciate it. Maybe you saw my video on the digital teleconverter of the X100V. I think it can be a useful feature to digitally zoom into an image if you don't want to edit it afterwards. Here on vacation it is more than enough to take quick snapshots with the kids on the beach. Nevertheless, I would like to have saved the uncropped RAW in addition, so you can do the cropping afterwards. I don't know why the digital teleconverter feature is only available if you shoot JPEG only. It would be great if it were available at Fine plus RAW. I would also accept a longer storage time for the files if needed. Maybe this is an idea for a firmware update. In general, this is an underestimated feature I would like to see evolved. Let's talk about money. Okay, let me be clear here. As I said, it annoys me that the WR kit is not included for the price of 1500 bucks, but still for me personally every cent of the X100V was worth the purchase. But I think that the camera could be much better represented on the market if it were offered for 150 euros less. Sure, it is not a camera for casual shooters, and if you compare the price with that of a Leica Q2, it is a bargain, full frame sensor or not. But still, people who want to start with photography will hardly understand that they should pay more for a compact camera with a fixed lens than for a mirrorless camera with almost the same technical specifications, including the corresponding interchangeable lens. Of course, I'm talking about the X-T30 with a 23mm f2 here. Check out my battle of the cams on the channel. The fight was extremely narrow in favor of the X100V, and whether this narrow lead is worth 300 bucks, everyone has to decide for themselves. Again, I think the X100V is absolutely worth the money, but to appreciate that, you have to be very connected to photography. Now that we got rid of my personal negative aspects of the camera, I can continue with the many things I like about it. My first point here, the size factor. I've always valued the Fujifilm X70 in the past for its really tiny size. But the overall compromises regarding autofocus performance and the lack of a viewfinder were too great. Nevertheless, I was skeptical whether the X100V would be small enough for my needs. You can laugh at me for that, but I think it's really great for street photography when a camera is as small as possible. Check out the Ricoh GR series that many street shooters appreciate for its compactness. But what can I say? I have to correct myself regarding the X100V. What it lacks in tininess, it compensates for the X70 with better performance and much better handling. And this is something I came to realize when I took only the X100V on my trip here to the Dutch coast. I only have the camera, an additional battery, the alternative WR kit, a mini tripod and the converter lenses with me. Everything is in my peak design everyday sling, and I did not miss something from my other gear. So for me it has become the right compromise between compactness, functionality and grip. I love it. The combination of the revised lens and the sensor and processor of the actual Fujifilm flagships X-T4 and X-T3 is responsible for the really amazing image quality coming out of the X100V. The fact that Fuji did not build the X100 series with a cheaper interior is a sign that they really take this series seriously. The lens is also very sharp now in photos up close, which was not the case with the older models. But in my opinion it still has a character that cannot be explained. It is not a soulless piece of sharpness. I also love the bokeh and low light performance, so I really have nothing to complain about here. I love almost everything about the ergonomics of the X100V. I would like the button layout between my X-T30 and this one to be a bit more consistent. I only mentioned the position of the play button, which sometimes drives me crazy. But since I find the layout of the X100V even better, it doesn't count here. I love having a real ISO dial. I think the placement of the Q button is great. I have enough freely assignable function buttons. Have a look at my video. The resistance of the dials and aperture ring is great, and if you have an extra thumb grip attached, the camera just feels great. It's that simple. Great. One word about the design. It is the most beautiful digital camera I have ever owned. Period. Have a look again. Well, the only obstacle that has always kept me from buying an X100F has finally been removed. The version 5 now has a tilting screen. In street photography, I find myself in situations all the time in which it is too striking to hold the camera up to the eye. So I want to look at the LCD from above and take my photos in the most inconspicuous way. Unfortunately, this was never possible without a tilting screen. As I told you in the beginning, that's why I even sold my beloved XE3. By the way, I really hope for an XE4 with the flush screen of the X100V to come. I also like to take photos from the ground level to sometimes create a certain look, and because the screen is flush with the body of the camera, no one can complain that it has changed anything in the design or that something unnecessary is being carried around. So if you don't want to use it, just leave it flush As simple as that. Well, I have a certain love-hate relationship for the leaf shutter of the X100V. On the one hand, I'm always happy that nobody can hear the shutter when I take street photos because it's so incredibly quiet. If you hear something when pressing the shutter release, check your sound settings. It's not the shutter itself you hear. And that's the one disadvantage. I really don't get any feedback from the camera that a photo was actually taken. Unfortunately, there was more than one situation in which I failed, so I turned on the sound on lowest level just to make sure. But what is a nice advantage of the leaf shutter, it can sync with flash all the way up to its maximum shutter speed of 1/2000th of a second with all apertures, or 1/4000th of a second when using f8 to f16. In comparison, the X-T3 will only sync flash with shutter speeds of 1/250th of a second or slower. I've already created some pretty portraits with it, so the advantages clearly outweigh the small disadvantage here. Speaking of the flash unit, I think it's good to have a small flash on board. On my X-T3 it was removed compared to the X-T2, and instead a small external flash was included. But then it is completely clear. You don't take it with you anyway, and then you'll have no way to flash. Of course, this little thing here doesn't replace a large flash on body or even an external flash, but it's still good to have it on the camera. What I find myself using all the time is the 4-level inbuilt ND filter of the X100V. When the weather is right, so the sun is shining strongly, like on this holiday, it is definitely a very nice feature if you want to lower your shutter speed for catching movements or just to shoot with larger apertures for a shallower depth of field. I really like to use it a lot. Well, I will come to the end now with the last 3 things I love about the X100V, but I will only summarize them in short because they speak for themselves, or I want to do a separate video about them. Let's talk about classic neck. This film simulation brought me from black and white to shooting more and more color. I had not expected that, but it is like this. It maybe should not be the reason to purchase this camera, but I always miss it on my X-T30 and X-T3, and hopefully this beauty will make it to them via firmware update. About the hybrid viewfinder, I will be honest. It's really fun to use the optical viewfinder if you want to have the whole analog feeling. Check out my video about it, but seriously, I don't use it that much. But it's beautiful to have it on board, especially if you're used to this kind of shooting. Last but not least, we have some really great video options on board of the X100V, the same as in the X-T30. It's not supposed to be a video camera at all, and it's lacking the possibility of stabilization, of course, but it's still good to have these video features on board. Well, let's come to a conclusion. This is definitely one of the longest videos I've ever made, but I have to say a lot about this camera. And it's because I never owned a camera that I loved as much as the Fujifilm X100V. Really. When I bought it, I wasn't sure if I should keep it first, but the story went completely in a different direction than I expected. I can't even explain everything about it, because I even have some things to complain about. But all in all, this beautiful camera is something emotional that literally makes you shoot more. I know you may have heard this in other reviews, but it's true. The X100V has so much to offer that I would never return it. Maybe for an X106, but I think this will take a couple of years. Until then, I'm looking forward to the next 4 months and years with this camera. I hope you enjoyed my really honest review about it. If so, please write me in the comments, even if you have questions on another topic. Don't forget to give me a like and please subscribe to my channel. Turn on the notifications so you never miss a video again. Well, take care, have a good time, ciao!